Okay, the last part of the first lesson is three different sections that are kind of a conclusion. And the first one is from a popular writer. He's one of my favorite authors in terms of fiction, but he also writes a lot of truthful things in his fiction. His name is Michael Crichton. You might know him as being the author of Jurassic Park. Anybody here read his books? Michael Crichton? Okay, you like him as an author? What he does is he takes real things, truthful things, and then kind of, makes part of it a fantasy. But he takes real things and adds a touch of fantasy. But look at this. I think this is quite accurate in terms of truth, without any fantasy. This is the preface of a book called Timeline. Timeline's about time travel, so it becomes fictitious. But in the preface of the book, he has this, which is quite enlightening about worldview. I think this is quite profound, and I think this is quite clear what he's getting at. So look at this with me, this paragraph. He says about time, past, present, future. He says this, quote, "We are all ruled by the past." In brackets I have previous sources forming our presuppositions, although no one usually understands it. No one recognizes the power of the past. But if you think about it, the past has always been more important than the present. The present is like a coral island that sticks above the water, but is built upon millions of dead, meaning past, corals under the surface that no one sees or remembers. So, for example, in the ocean, beneath the surface, you have millions, billions of coral, microscopic or small sea life that collects and builds these giant structures from the seafloor and pokes above the surface into low-lying coral islands. So here's a person, standing on a coral island, but he doesn't realize what he's standing on is mostly below water. So most of this coral he'll never see, he doesn't know about them, and this represents the past. And this small part above the surface of the water is like the present. So here's an illustration of worldview regarding time. In the same way, our everyday world is built upon millions and millions of events and decisions that occurred in the past. He gives a very simple scenario here. A teenager has breakfast, then goes to work. But who defines, quote-unquote, teenager? So that term has a meaning. But who invented that term, teenager? Why do we have to have these terms like teenager? Why not just human being? But yet we have these terms, he or she's a teenager. Or who says that food in the morning is called breakfast, and you can't have steak, can't have cake, has to be eggs or pancakes. Well, who says? Who made that up? But we inherit these things in our tradition, our culture. We inherit them, but they all came out of the past, he's saying. So he says, to say nothing of the rest, the teenager kid there, his entire social setting, family, school, clothing, transportation, government, etc., it all comes from the past. None of this has been decided in the present. Most of it was decided hundreds or thousands of years ago. This kid is sitting on top of a mountain that is the past, like this. And he never notices it. He's ruled by what he never sees, never thinks about, and doesn't know. This same kid is skeptical of other forms of control. Parental restrictions that people who are teenagers rebel against quite often. Commercial messages, government laws. But the invisible rule of the past, which predeterminedly decides everything in his life, goes unquestioned. It's presupposed. That's why I say the future belongs to the past. End of quote. Then I say, as kind of a follow-up, compare the many things we do and believe due to our presuppositions or assumptions because of past events and or decisions that maybe we were also unaware of. Example, wearing clothing even when it's hot. That really speaks to me, because I'm the kind of person that I wish I could wear shorts the rest of my life if it's hot. I hate wearing socks and shoes, long pants, if it's hot. Why can't I wear shorts when I teach? But there's this rule in our minds: if you're a seminary professor, you can't do that. Where does that rule come from? The present or the past? It comes from the past. Somewhere in the ancient time past, someone had this idea that if you're a professor, you have to look dignified, and dignified means long pants. Shorts are undignified. Well, who says? Okay, but someone said that, and it stuck. And now we have this tradition that goes back in time. So I don't know where it came from, but it's here in the present. But it came out of the past. But we go through life assuming, well, of course I have to wear pants. But we don't even know where it comes from, that rule, wearing pants. Why can't I wear a G-string? That'd be a lot cooler. Okay, I will. Tomorrow night, just to show you how I will. But in the same way, look at the last phrase. Look at the last phrase. In the same way, we also believe a certain philosophy or religious view without question. We assume it, we believe it, we were taught it, and it comes out of some past tradition that might be wrong. It might be stupid. It might be illogical. And wearing clothing when it's hot is illogical. So I think that paragraph is quite profound. That most people, I think all people really are like this, including us. The things we do and believe come out of long past traditions that we don't even know sometimes where they came from and why. But we have them. Yeah. Comment? Question?
To go back to the box that we're doing, that's another forcing use. As we use it as an analyzing thing, we think and focus it on our churches or something like that. We may see that, we do stuff, and we take this, we value this, and we do this. And why? Definition, and so, because we've done it in tradition. Well, that's not good enough. Let's focus and find out why.
Right.
And you get back to it, then what you do has more meaning.
Yeah. Now here's an example, and I'm not saying this to make fun of people. I'm saying it to illustrate a point. Okay? And maybe this is a good thing to do, but I think it illustrates the point. And maybe someone in the room does this, so I don't want to insult you or criticize you. This is just an example, okay? But some people, they talk like I'm talking. They speak in, everyday American English. But when they pray, ancient England comes into focus. Okay? And they say, "Oh, thouest Lord, it is meeth." Now, I'm being cute for the camera. I'm not trying to insult people who do that, though. But I mean, they use King James English. Okay? Where does that come from? What's the mindset? Okay, but what is in the mindset when you use King James English? The person who does that, they have the instinctive idea that it's blanker than modern English. Holier. Okay? And maybe it is, but maybe not. But in the mindset of the person, they think this is holier if I do it that way than say, "Lord, it's me, Stephen. Hello. I have some things to talk to you about." To some people it sounds unholy, okay, not as sacred. Okay? So that's an example where people do things, but they don't question why they do it. They just have this in their mind that that's holier. So they use an old language that's very ancient. Did you know, as a point of fact, when the King James Bible first came out, it was criticized. Do you know why? It was new. It was contemporary. Doesn't that sound funny? Once upon a time, thee and thou was contemporary, and they thought, this is not holy, this is not sacred. Why don't you speak like, the older English? So the King James Bible, when it was new, was criticized for being new and having modern language. So isn't that funny? But now we think of it, because it's old, it's dignified, it's sacred, it's holy, and I can't speak to God in American English. So, but that all comes from the past. Also, singing music. Why do we have to sing 16th century Bach music to a pipe organ? In my culture, in my lifetime, I never bought one CD or record in my life that was organ music, pipe organ. I bought rock and roll or jazz or contemporary, guitar, drum, piano. That's my culture. So why do I have to sing an ancient European pipe organ culture music? But some churches have the idea pipe organs are holy, guitars are not. It comes out of the past. It comes out of tradition. So that's the point he's making here. We do all kinds of things every day without realizing that beneath us is this long past tradition. And that box, I hope this worldview box might help us to get at. Why is our church doing what it does? Why do I believe what I do? Where does it come from? And maybe I should change. Maybe our church should change. Maybe we can help the culture to change, so forth and so on. So maybe this worldview box will help us to analyze what we're doing and why. Maybe we should keep speaking in King James when we pray, but maybe not. Maybe it's irrelevant.